Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. We are an anime podcast. Every 2 weeks, we come together, we watch an anime, and then we come and talk about it. And we do this on this podcast. We let everyone else join in the discussion in our comment sections. At the beginning of every year, we watch a movie during Christmas time. And then Jason and Jeremy, who I will introduce in a second, get to pick a rules-free anime because we try to keep up with modern anime. Whatever's new, hot, like that. So we watched Outlaw Star. And we're going to talk about it. But first, let me introduce, he is the Serenity to my Firefly, Jeremy.
Oh, man, that's an honor.
I know.
Yeah.
Can't wait for mine.
This is going to be good. I'm doing pretty good. I've been just preparing for school, getting all the necessary books, and yeah, it's been kind of crazy. I did get lucky, though. Apparently, some of my old credits transferred, which I did not expect. I mean, they're 20 years old, man. But they still transferred.
That's really cool. I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Okay, then we also have the Satellite of Love to my Mystery Science Theater 3000, Jason.
I'll take that.
Because you're a bone.
Good.
Doing well. I know Troy doesn't care at all, but I beat Uber Elder this week. First time.
That is a big deal in Path of Exile, the game Jason likes to play.
Yes.
I assume someone's never heard us when I talk.
No. Fair enough. Yeah. So each key set gives you 6 tries. And I burned through 9 key sets. And on my final attempt of my last portal, on my final key set, I downed him. And I was just...
Nice.
And by the way, every key set resets the entire encounter, so you start back from 0. So, yeah, that was my big accomplishment this week.
Wow. That sounds tough. I mean, I remember when I was trying to just take down the one guy with you guys, I couldn't get through the gauntlet as my thief character.
No, all Uber Elder is it's Shaper and Elder at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So both end game bosses. They just stick them in a small arena. They're like, here you go.
Fantastic. And my name is Troy. And I'm doing pretty well myself. All I've really done is rewatch all of Rick and Morty. But there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good time.
That's a lot of watching, though.
Yeah, I signed up for that Hulu deal at the beginning of the year, which was like $1 a month for a year. So I've just been like Hulu binging everything, which means now I also have to watch ads. So I've just been letting Rick and Morty play.
We could totally have watched the whole Outlaw Star.
I don't think they're on Hulu.
Oh, that's the reason why.
Yeah, they're on. I found them on Funimation. I don't know where you guys are.
Can I just say I've been a little disappointed with VRV since they've separated from Funimation?
Yeah, I canceled.
Okay. I was actually thinking about doing the same thing. It's been frustrating, their content. They seem to be going away from anime and a little bit more towards like old television shows.
It's not that I blame them because it wasn't their decision for Funimation to go away. Because VRV is Crunchyroll, I think. I think Crunchyroll owns them.
Really? Yes.
I think so. But yeah, Funimation decided they wanted to go their own ways, and it was just kind of like, well, the whole point for me was that you were both here, and they did try to get a replacement, but they're not quite there. And honestly, the replacement I think they have like most of the anime that were on Amazon already, so it's all complicated for us anime streamers. You do you watch how you watch, and we're not going to judge.
Yeah.
With that said, let's talk about Outlaw Star, an anime from the long ago, before the
far away,
before the days of the Madokas and the
back in a simpler time.
Yeah, I remember watching this on Toonami and loving it because it was so different from Sailor Moon, Robotech, Dragon Ball Z. It was directed by Mitsuru Hongo, who also did Sakura Wars, and the studio is Sunrise, who did Inuyasha, Code Geass, and Gundam Seed. But I think there's a lot of other anime influences you can see there. I see a lot of Cowboy Bebop in it. Very similar art style, very similar background music. And I think, and I'll talk about this when we get more into the sports section, I see modern stuff that was influenced by this. And I was actually really having a really fun time seeing that. But let's go into our non-spoiler reviews. Jeremy, you picked it. This is your ruleless pick, retro pick. You know, after 2 years, you'd think we'd have a name, but we don't. Yeah. Jeremy, what did you think of Outlaw Star this time around? Because I know you've seen it before, like me.
Yeah. Well, it's been a long time, and I have a lot of nostalgia for this. It didn't quite live up to the nostalgia, but I still really enjoyed it. Yeah, I definitely would recommend it, though. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.
Yeah, especially if I think if you like anime at this time or just really want something different sci-fi wise.
It's definitely got that 90s vibe.
All right. Jason, you hadn't seen this before, right? This is your first time. What'd you think?
It was campy. It was. I feel there's a really great sci-fi anime in here that was just too
beaten over the head with a 90s stick.
Yes.
Well, it's just too new to the market at the time, right? You know, they didn't have the storytelling experience that they have today. Also, it was really tough to suspend disbelief with ships with arms clashing each other and fighting like Fate Stay Night style, but in space. That was rough. But it was a neat adventure into the past.
Okay. You know, this was everything I loved about 90s anime wrapped up into a tight little ball. I had a blast. Everything everyone has said is true, and it didn't faze me at all. I could clearly see the flaws that haven't aged well, but I was like, there's just so much nostalgia in this for me that I really enjoyed it. What did we think of the opening and the closing of Outlaw Star?
I can't get that theme song out of my head, and I don't want it there.
Really?
Keira Knightley. It's just like, I felt like I was about to start an episode of like the old 90s Batman cartoon.
Oh man, that's great.
It was it screamed 90s. It was okay. The ending was boring, but
I love the ending.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Every time, like I remembered as soon as I saw the ending, I was like, I remember this. All of the art, the way that they did the hand drawn. Well, it's all hand drawn, of course, but but the way that they did a different style of art, and they had just really nice, slow, mellow music with it. The ending made a huge impression on me way back when I was a kid, and yeah, it was nice.
The intro is probably the most 90s thing ever. It's like this 90s rock, Japanese pop. Yes. He's jumping over a garbage can and a missile at the same time. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I watched it every single time. I agree with Jason. It's stuck in my head, and it probably is time for it to go.
Yeah.
But the ending, I'm so confused about. Yes, the art is lovely. What does it have to do with the anime itself? These don't
100%.
They don't look like the same characters. The ships are completely different. There's alien dog things. I didn't know what was going on, and I just felt confused every time it appeared.
I have no idea, but my guess is that it's just concept art or, just fun art to go with it. I don't know. But yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I was trying to figure out, hey, is that Milfina, the first character?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think it is. And the rest, I have no idea who they are.
I do want to give a call out to the little lore segments right after the intro, or before the intro, huh? Yeah, it's like the opening of the anime, and it would just be like a narrator would come in. I watched the dub, so I can't be sure he always said the same thing as the sub, but he'd be like, "Yeah, you pirates were really good at combat. And they started putting arms on their ships, and so other guys were like, oh, how do we beat them?" And they would explain concepts that didn't make any sense in the anime, or
I actually
introduce
really
a
like
character
that.
that was coming in. I thought it was great.
Sometimes they even tried to do it with poetry, like with Suzuka. And
Yeah.
I love that. That was great.
Yeah, or like in the blackness of the titles of space. That kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I love that they were ether drives, which like very much spoke to 90s.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, then we will go on to our spoiler section and the story proper. So here is your spoiler warning. Everything's going to be revealed. Live. I feel like an alarm should go off. I don't know how to do this right. No, you don't get to make sounds. We established that last time.
My sound effects are amazing.
You freaked us all out last time. I had to edit that episode, and it's like we just completely lost everything as soon as you started making beats. To start us off, I'm actually have Jeremy kind of give us a concept of this universe and how he understands it. He probably understands it better than I do. The lore is kind of his thing. So give us like a little quick snippet to set up this framework, Jeremy.
Oh boy.
I didn't warn him at all about this.
No,
He's gonna be so mad.
I didn't do much research. Actually, I didn't do any research. I just have what I watched. But the impression that I get is that, I mean, we have a lot of lore about where the grappler arms came from, and that they're just a sign of power and whatnot. But this seems like it's very well developed. There's multiple races in space. At least we know of one races that humans have encountered. They've gone out, they've colonized quite a bit of space, and they have these drives. I can't remember what they call them, but they basically categorize them as sub-ether drives and ether drives. And it lets them travel through space in a weird way because their engines actually have what almost look like propellers on them when they go into the space. It's really cool. So right off the bat, you kind of get the idea that they're operating under a different sort of physics here. And and the scene kind of takes us to a backwater planet where it's kind of grungy, and it's kind of almost like a Blade Runner smell to it. Where you've got cyborgs and you've got the back streets, and that's where we start to learn about our main character.
And there's also a heavy Chinese culture vibe. Like this whole thing has a Western meets Chinese culture. So, and I'm assuming somehow the Chinese were involved in the domestication of space.
Yeah, it said that there was in one of the lore drops. It said that there was it was the Chinese who first took the grapplers from the exosuits and started to use them as a sign of strength for the pirate groups. And so apparently there's three major groups. There's the pirate group, there's the space forces, and then there's the outlaws. And of course, our story revolves around the outlaws, but hits the others. So the Chinese primarily seem to be the pirates.
Yeah. And you see a lot of that. What I was talking about earlier was that's almost identical to Firefly. Firefly is very much, we're a Western in space, but Chinese culture is everywhere.
Everybody knows
the universe. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Seem to be a lot of parallels between Firefly and this anime.
There's no way Joss Whedon has not seen this anime. Otherwise, he needs to talk to his production people. they're inserting stuff into his shows.
Yep.
So a universe full of pirates, outlaws, cops, apparently.
Mm-hmm. And another interesting thing about the pirates is that they have ancient Taoist magic. And so not only do we have a strange ether physics here, we also have Taoist magic that is fully functional and quite powerful.
And they're related, right? Like the ether is connected to the magic, right?
That's my guess. I don't think
they explain it, do they?
I don't think I saw anything that said they are or aren't, but it smells right.
We should say we've only watched the first 12 episodes for this podcast episode, and we're not watching the rest as part of the podcast. I don't know what everyone else is going to do. But so there could be a lore drop in like episode 13.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe when we figure out what the galactic ley line is, we'll know.
So the after getting a quick future scene of a grappler ship battle that won't happen for a long time, we come to a scene of pirates attacking a woman's ship, and she has their treasure. They keep talking about their treasure, and she runs away. And then we go to the planet where our main character is, who's Gene Starwin. He's spiky haired, lean, covered in scars. He could be any other anime character from the 90s cousin. And this is our main character. He seems to have no limit to the amount of guns he'll use. He is absolutely one of my favorite characters in all of anime because he is just so everything I like. But what did you guys think about him?
He's got Iria's gear, man. The design, like the way that they've drawn the white light gloves and some of the other gear that he has, is so reminiscent of Iria for me. And yeah, everything about him is awesome, except the fact that like he's so precise and he's so good with his shots, except for when the plot needs him not to be. And I know that's a common trope, but in this show, it just seems even more exaggerated than usual because he's just that much better. And also, I love how he has this. He plays really well off of his other lead, Jim, who is more mechanically inclined and more intelligent, basically. But this guy's really instinctual. Gene is really instinctual, really impulsive, and I love how the two of them are like they're alphas in their own way, and they butt heads, and it's just a really great dynamic to see how things play out.
God, I couldn't stand this character.
Oh, I'm hurt. I am taking that.
It's awesome.
Yeah, he
meant to be a jerk.
Well, yeah, no, but he's a jerk without reason or purpose to. Like, he's just a jerk to be a jerk. Like he's barely doing it to manipulate or get his way. At least it's
he kind of seems bitter, like
I
hard
can see
hand,
it.
and so he's like, "Screw all of you."
Yeah, and like, they've definitely played on the space makes me sick when they needed it to, but it wasn't all the time, which was weird. But yeah, I don't know. He had plot armor because that's the only armor he wore. And he fought some really dangerous people.
That's true.
I have a super weak spot for characters that have their very own moral code. And it's like this mix of chivalry, but also do whatever it takes to win. So they will shoot you in the back to survive, but they're also a good guy. It's very much Mal Reynolds from Firefly. If he meets a dangerous assassin and that dangerous assassin isn't armed, he'll shoot him. Han Solo shoots Greedo first. He has his own moral code, and it's not quite heroic moral code. It's like right underneath that of survival heroic moral code. And I absolutely love it. And Gene Starwin has it in spades, like, oh, we got to help the people. But also we could just borrow money randomly from people we have no intention of paying back.
Yep.
I love that. Would I hit it big? And like, no, that's not happening.
I think that's one of the things that made Gene great is that he was always trying to gamble, always trying to take advantage of somebody, and frequently people would shoot him down. And so it was almost like the writers, they wanted to let you know, we're in on the joke. We know what kind of character Gene is, and we're not going to let him get away with everything.
There's a scene where like everyone's sleeping and the computer finds Gene and he's just posing with a gun in his room.
Yes, that was awesome.
And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And then he drops a gun on his foot because this whole time, like, he's like always pulling out the guns and he looks all awesome. It's like, oh, he practices that. He's very much deliberately doing that on purpose.
And then he claims that he was sleepwalking.
Yeah, so we meet Gene. He's attacked by a guy in a bar who has a grudge against him. The guy's half cyborg, and Gene basically just shoots him. And then it's like, wait, there's a bounty on this guy? We got paid. And he's in a business partnership, like Jeremy mentioned, with one of the other main characters, Jim Hawkins, which is the name of the guy from Treasure Island.
Is it?
Isn't Jim Hawkins Treasure Island?
That sounds right. Hawkins sounds right.
Anyway, Jim Hawkins, he is your classic 90s orphan kid who is smarter than the main character. He is the mechanic. He can do all the computer stuff. What's that?
And he's 12.
And he's 12.
Yes.
So what did we think of him?
I actually liked this character a little more. And I think what endeared him to me was there was that scene where him and Jean are fighting. Because he's like, dude, you can't lay in bed all day. We've got stuff to do. And Jean's just like, whatever. I can't be bothered with that stuff. And instead of just getting upset and walking away, like he's like laying out all these reasons, all this evidence. Like, look, we are in bad shape here. And like his concern for it very much felt like a Jobs Wozniak duo, right? You have the visionary with the big dreams, and then you've got the guy that's like, no, this is how we get from A to B, then to Z. We got to do these steps. So I think I kind of attached to him more than I did Jean.
Yeah, and then in that scene, he goes on to put a pillow on Jean's face and step on it. I love that. It's great. Again, the dynamic between the two of them, but also the dynamic between a lot of the other characters and Jim and Jean is really, really good. Jean is consistent across the board with his behavior. You know, I don't see him as the kind of character where they present him just to present the trope and then, you know, whenever it's convenient, switch him into some other role. Even when it's inconvenient, they have him retain that. And it's kind of cool to see. I thought he was a good character.
Yeah, to build off that, one of the things I really appreciated was that we never got the I love him, you know, he's my hero moment. Jim and Jean's relationship isn't that. They very much remind me of brothers, but I get the sense that Jean needs Jim much more than Jim needs Jean. Because you see that a lot with these, you know, 90s kid. We saw it in Iria, you saw it in Megalobox, which was the callback to 90s anime. We're like, oh, that guy's so cool. I'm just gonna follow him because he's like a hero to me, and I'm gonna get involved in his life.
And then rap about him.
Don't start with me. But Jim didn't have that. Jim is very much pulling his own weight. He, like I said, he's probably more responsible for the money they do have than anything because they're like, how do we make money? Me. I'm gonna make us money because I'm the one who can do that. So yeah, I did like him for a 90s kid. It was fine. Mm-hmm. After that, okay, I gotta call out this scene, and I'm not trying to like pull out the lewd stuff, but again, having watched this on Toonami, when Jean leaves Jim to go sleep with a hooker, I was like, my jaw fell. And this is a very PG-13 anime. It was never like extreme or, you know, gratuitous in its depiction, but like there was definitely adult themes that were not present when I watched this the first time.
Yeah, it gives it a sense of grittiness. So that
I actually loved it.
I liked it. Yeah, Tanya she watched the whole thing with me because, you know, hey, nostalgia anime, she has to. And this was one of the scenes where she's like, "Oh, is this why you liked it? Is this why you liked it?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't know this was even here. This is just a bonus." But yeah, no, I thought it actually contributed a lot to the show to have him, like you said, he's not really a hero. I mean, he is, but he does things that you wouldn't necessarily expect from the perfect shining hero.
Right. He's a man with his own code.
Yeah, he's pragmatic. Yeah. Exactly.
And even that code kind of clashes with itself sometimes.
Yeah.
Eventually, they get hired for some bodyguard work. They meet this beautiful client, and then they immediately get attacked by pirates. And in the time of being chased by the pirates and fighting them off, this beautiful woman reveals she's Hilda, the pirate from the beginning of the anime who is being chased, who has the treasure. She wears an eye patch. She's an outlaw. she's awesome. You know, she's everything Jean would want to be, right? Because you know she's legit. Where he's like a small fish in a small pond, she's doing this on the galactic scale. Thoughts on Hilda, who's not in the whole anime, but is probably a central driving force of all of it.
I actually really liked Hilda. She was gritty, own code kind of thing, but more of a chaotic evil. Well, I wouldn't say chaotic, maybe, unscrupulous.
She shoots Jean dead, like 5 minutes later from
Right.
this moment.
Which, again, he had a piece of plot armor he pulled out of his code.
Yeah. That's right, he did.
Yes, he did.
But yeah, she was witty, she was smart, gritty, and always had a surprise up her sleeve, but she was always pissing everyone off. So I think that's why I liked her, is because she had a similar thing going on for her in the story-wise as Jean did, but her actions had real consequences that ended up costing her life. But yeah, it's like, oh, I've got this really big ship. Don't worry about it. Oh, I've got this other ship just hiding away. Where'd you get it? I stole it.
Yep. I really liked Hilda. Probably one of the pivotal moments for me in the anime is the scene where Hilda is no longer a part of it, because she made such a big impression on me. As I remember thinking the first time I watched it, you know, this is the crew. This is how things are going to be through the anime. And I was getting used to the dynamic of the crew as it existed. And then when that happened, there was a real vacancy there. And I remember imagining what would have happened throughout the rest of the anime had she survived that situation and been there for it, which was just how different things would have been. And to me, that says that she made a really big impression on me, if I'd bothered to spend that time thinking about that. But I love the way that in the 90s they were able to portray a strong woman who was able to be a captain and be a convincing captain and yet still be feminine. I really like that.
Nice. I really do like Hilda, but I have to admit, I didn't remember she was in this anime. And so when she first appeared, I'm like, oh, she must leave pretty early. And she doesn't. She actually has quite the staying power, even though she does leave. Because I kind of was like, oh, yeah, I remember there was like a person who kind of got them into this. But she made a much bigger impression on me this time. She, like, basically everything you guys have said. She is a strong, independent woman who's cooler than Jean, who we meet this really cool, I'm an awesome 90s anime character. Well, here's a better one, and you're going to want to be her.
Right.
It's like mature version of Jean.
Yeah, and that was really cool. Yep. And then, so they managed to get away with the caster gun, which, guys, the caster gun is like my favorite thing in this anime. Jeremy always talks about the robot, the spaceship arms, the gun where you put like a magic spell into it and it just fires this magic thing. And the fact that it's like an antique and you have to find the special bullet. So every time you use a bullet, that's a big deal. It's very limited. That stuck with me so much from the first time I watched this. And again, I was like, every time it appeared, I'm like, yeah, I love that gun. I love the detail of the gun. That's one of the things that this reminds me of Cowboy Bebop, is the details in the guns, but the guns are sci-fi guns instead of actual like 9mm pistols. So I love the caster gun, guys.
Caster gun was nearly my favorite character.
Second only to another inanimate object.
But has intelligence.
That's right.
So yeah, we get the first big scene of the caster gun blowing away the magic pirates who like fuse their minions into a platform to fly on.
That was weird.
Wasn't it?
It was super weird.
The pirates are super creepy because you don't know the limit of their power, and you're like, man, if they can do that kind of stuff. Honestly, when after the scene, after he blows away the pirate, they come upon the dead body. I'm like, can they bring people back from the dead? And they don't. But that whole time, you're like, I don't know what you can do. You're such a question mark. I'm terrified of you.
And the way that they even choose to draw them, like the little girl that's one of the pirate leaders there.
And her eyes.
Yes. Her eyes were just
That
ridiculous.
was gross.
Yep.
No,
Very-
I was telling you guys earlier. This like had so many Star Wars beats in it because like you got plucky, Mountain Rules adventure from Backwater's Planet and space wizards. It's like what? What's happening in the sci-fi anime?
You even have a scene at the beginning where Gene is sitting there talking to, I don't remember if it's the girl from the bar at the beginning or a different girl, but he's talking to a girl and she's asking him like, oh, what do you want to do? And he's talking about how he wants to go to space. And what are you going to do? I'm going to hunt pirates.
He didn't say that. He doesn't like pirates.
Yeah, in the very beginning, like the first episode, he says that. It's kind of reminds me of when Luke's like, oh, I really want to go fly. I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, I want to be a pilot.
Yeah, I want to be a pilot.
Then we get the scene where Hilda shoots Gene, and he was fine. He ends up taking her at gunpoint, and they open the case that has the treasure, and inside is a young woman curled up in the fetal position. And if you look at the scene of Firefly, where they open up the box and there's a young woman in the fetal position, again, no way he hasn't seen this anime.
Yeah, right.
Just waiting onto you.
When you sent that picture, oh my God, it's so perfect. It's exactly. I didn't notice when I watched Firefly, but it is exact.
I didn't. It wasn't until I saw it in this thing. I was like, oh, I've seen that before, and not just this anime.
Yeah, the shape, everything was exact.
Yeah.
So this girl in the box is Malfina. She will be a major character. She's part of the ship. She's their navigation system. She's
What's in the box?
She's in the love interest. And I remember when the first time I watched this, thinking like, I kind of had a little bit of a waifu crush on her.
Really?
Yeah,
I can see that.
I like this character a lot. What do you guys think?
She was just so empty. So empty. I couldn't connect with her as a character. She was
Why would you say that about my waifu?
You asked me.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, she pretty shallow as a character. Kind of there for story driving, but I did like how she was used to bring out more of a softer side to Gene. Mm-hmm. That was nice.
I thought it was interesting because, again, like having to stop 12 episodes in, I get this sense that she's going to have some serious development coming up just because of where we end things with her. But I totally agree. She's very subdued. She's in the background, and it kind of works because, she doesn't really have the ability to step up and have control of the situation. She's not in financial control. She's not in crew control. Like, there's no way. And so it's very interesting to watch her as almost an observer who's trying to figure out what her place is and whether the people she's around are even safe. Like, she doesn't really have much choice other than to trust the people who woke her up, but still, like, does she really trust them? I don't know. It's really interesting. There's some depth to be considered there, but it certainly seems boring too.
I enjoyed what feels like almost a slow burn developing of a relationship between her and Gene. I love that. I like that's not love at first sight, that he didn't see her and be like, "That's the hottie I want to get with the body."
Even though he did try making boobs.
Yeah, no, he's a monster. I mean, that's fine.
Here's the thing that was so funny to me is, like, when he first sees her, obviously she comes out of this case, she's completely naked, right?
Right.
And when this was on Toonami and she came out of the case, I was like, oh, naked girl is probably the first time he's seen a naked girl, right? Well, that's because I didn't see the previous scene. Yeah. But now it makes perfect sense why it's so casual for him, and he's like, whatever, I've seen this before.
Again, right. I always love an anime where a character doesn't break into a nosebleed just because a character got naked around them or doesn't throw something into their face. Like you said, he's just like, all right, well, we're dealing with other stuff. That's not even time to be interested in that right now.
And it's great because Jim sees her, and Jim's he gets the sort of, he doesn't go nosebleed and anything, but he still gets the.
Yeah, he's the 12-year-old.
He is 12 years old, so it works.
Right. They are pinned down by the pirates. Hilda goes and gets her ship with Jim while Gene distracts. And I love the caster gun appears again, and he fires a dud this time. He fires one and then puts in his last one.
Which makes so much sense for an antique weapon. I loved the scene.
He's like, this is my last one. Oh no. But they do manage to get away. They get up to Hilda's main ship. And this is kind of where we learn a lot about Jean's space sickness. I like the space sickness, and I like that it comes back. But like at first, it's just even sitting in a ship in space, and then eventually he gets used to that. Then it's flying the ship in space, then he gets used to that, and then it's okay. I'm going for a spacewalk. Okay, it's back. I like that there was this trauma that he had to overcome. That it wasn't one episode, and then he overcame it, and it never came up again. I can kind of see your point, Jason. That's not super consistent. Sometimes, by the end of these 12 episodes, I'm gonna fly around and go to hyperspace. It's fine. But I did like this trait that there was this major flaw, and it's tied into his backstory. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
I thought they did a pretty good job explaining how it was gradually getting better. But yeah.
They manage to warp away, and they go to Blue Heaven, which is an asteroid where outlaws like to hang out. We meet Swanzo, who I thought was a robot. Even thought he was a robot the second time I saw him, and learned later in this he's not a robot. He's an alien in a suit.
It's like some kind of little weird froggy dude.
Yeah. But it never gave you a scale when they showed him. So I'm like wondering, is he driving the suit? Is the suit just like on his body? Is he just in the head? Because the eyes glow of the suit. I'm like, well, that wouldn't be then his eyes then, would it? Because his eyes weren't glowing when we see the frog body. It reminded me of the little alien in Men in Black that's just in the face of the robot suit.
Yeah.
They just never showed him up against anything else, so I don't know what his scale is.
Yeah, I assumed he was wearing it like a suit, but you could totally be right.
Actually, it's funny. There's a lot of callback or like more recent media seems to have taken cues from this.
I honestly, I think this is. It's not as known as like Cowboy Bebop or Trigun, but this is probably one of the more influential animes of the 90s that carried, eventually soaked into our modern media, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
They do some shopping, and then they run into they're looking for workers, and basically these thugs are like, yo, hire us, we're the worst. They fight them off, and then they go to the hotel, which it turns out to be an ambush, but they figure that out. And they fight these thugs off, and we hear the name the McDougalls for the first time in this episode. And then the McDougal brothers are the guys who hired these thugs to try to fight them. Jason, before we were allowed to even record this podcast, demanded to know if any hanky-panky took place during this scene.
You're going to call me out like that, are you?
I am. So because I'm turning it to the audience, we debated over it before recording. We're not going to do it here. But if you think hanky-panky took place in Outlaw Star right here, let Jason know, because he wants to
know. I'm so offended that you called me out.
There are no secrets.
I do kind of. Well, we didn't come to a firm conclusion, so now I'm wondering about it too. And, that's what our audience is for, right?
That's right. They're here to help us out.
That's right. Hilda eventually reveals that their whole thing is they're going to go get a grappler ship. She has her eyes set on this special ship, and she doesn't mention why yet, or does she mention the galactic ley line? With the One Piece, it's the name of the treasure in the galactic ley line. No.
I'm offended.
It's the exact same plot of One Piece, guys.
Is it?
Yes, the whole point of One Piece is you had to get to the line. I forget what that line's called. It is a line, and that's where the One Piece treasure is held, and they have to get the crew strong enough to go there.
I have never seen any One Piece.
Oh,
that's a terrible thing to say, but I've never seen it.
I haven't either.
You should watch some of the fights. They're kind of crazy cool. Rubber people and stuff. So yeah, they fight off these losers. They get back in their ship. They blast off, and these gang guys come back with little baby grappler ships and attack them. And they're immune to lasers.
Yeah, this was when I saw this. This is kind of I thought maybe it was an explanation for why we had grappler ships because we hadn't gotten the lore drop about it just being sort of a symbol of power that kind of metamorphosed into a weapon that maybe isn't the best weapon you could use. It kind of reminds me of in Dune how they've got blasters, but they also have shields, and if you shoot the shield with the blaster, you create a nuclear explosion. So we knife fight. Like there are ways to explain how you can have really high levels of technology without losing the ability to resort back to something that might seem primitive like grapple arms. And I really thought that some kind of special technology shield or magical shield that prevents lasers so that only missiles and grappling arms are the only things that work. But it never did any lore drops about that being the case. So I don't know.
No, they're just like, they just have anti-laser stuff.
Yeah, lasers just don't work on them.
You know, I don't have a problem with the grappler arms, especially after the lore drop. I do have a problem with the grappler fingers.
Oh, God.
I always have a problem with fingers on mechs. Like, why not just make the gun attached to the limb, and then you don't need to have the finger of the mech pull a trigger? That's ridiculous.
Which can we just sidebar just for a second? Gene, okay, this ship could easily have a turret, but no, it's got arms with a pistol the size of a building, and then he's as accurate with this thing as freaking Han Solo.
Yeah.
And he can shoot down incoming missiles with this handgun for his ship. It's like, why not have a turret?
They do explain it wires into your brain, so you're like
through the eye.
Yeah, you are mentally thinking about using them and you can't even rotate them 360 degrees because of the way that joystick layout is. You have like 12 directions you can move that joystick.
I know. And what's the way you could actually control the hands and like particular finger squeezes and things like that? All you have is just the directional joystick. I didn't even see any on top of it. Like,
there is almost no mech anything where the fact fingers exist doesn't irritate me. I'm like, it would just be so much easier to have the weapon wire into or remotely activate. You shouldn't need an appendage. It's just weird. Okay.
So I've got to nerd out just a moment here because
you're the mech guy.
I know a ton of stuff about like BattleTech mechs, and there is a special computer in BattleTech mechs that explains away why they have fingers and why their hands can work, even though it may not be a glove that the pilot's wearing, even though sometimes they do have them. So you could have something as simple as what Gene has, which is just these joysticks. And the way that it works is it has sophisticated machine learning algorithms and an actual robot brain that is translating your desire into what it has as acceptable responses. And so what you'd actually do is think or visualize, because it's connected into the brain. Like with a BattleTech pilot, they have the helmets they wear, but with Gene, he's got that eye thing that shoots in there, right? And so if he's thinking, I want to get these missiles, and he's looking through all of those multitude of 360-degree cameras and picturing which missiles he wants, the machine learning algorithms and the controls of the actual joints would be able to line up with how to properly get the gun oriented, and he wouldn't even have to control the particular targeting of it. And so, I mean, I can kind of rationalize it away if you give a lot of the authority to Gilliam, the ship's AI.
Wait, you explained how it worked, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with how the finger works. Why not just have the gun fire with the same thought process? Why do you need a trigger and a finger to pull it if you're already automating so much?
So in BattleTech, you have, I think the Stinger is an example of one of the mechs that has a carried gun. And the reason is because if there's a problem with the gun, you can just drop it. And so with him, because we know that he keeps changing the weapons that are held in the hands of the grapplers, presumably if there was extra weight attached to the ends of the grapplers, it would slow them down. They'd be less effective. So if you're going to be able to switch weapons, you can't have a multitude of weapons on it. It's better to just pick and choose the weapons you need.
I have a hard time believing that all the technology that exists to make the finger work, but no, the gun doesn't work. We can't put that in a gun because you might drop it.
Well, I mean, like, if you've got the finger to work because you're going to be grabbing other grappler hands and ripping them off and grabbing all the ships.
Let's set this aside for a minisode about mech fingers.
Okay, all right. We could call it that. The mech finger.
No, I am To be fair, 1,000,000,000% nitpicking. It's just something that every time I see a mech, it goes through my head. Do you really need a finger? Anyway.
No, and I'm totally nerding out. I completely agree with you.
All right. I don't know where we are. Oh yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Oh no, the big scene does matter because this Kataro ship shows up that is coming to dock at
I love the Kataro.
Kataro are they say tiger, right? Or lion?
Tiger.
They're basically cat people.
Yeah.
And it's commanded by this woman. Yeah, we're going to talk about her when she has her big featured episode. So she just has like almost a little bit of a cameo here. And she's like driving right into this mess. And she's like, you guys need to move. We're the Kataro. They're almost like Klingons. Like, we're the best. We're going to destroy everything. Get out of our way. No one messes with us. And Hill's like, nope. Coming through. You should turn slightly left or we're going to ram.
And turn off your shields.
Yeah, that's what it is. You need to turn off your shields and we'll make it. And the Kataro ship has to, but this really offends the captain, who we'll come back to. And she arrests all those grappler ships and gets really pissed that Hilda gets away.
I think it's really telling that all of the grappler ships immediately stop. They're like, "Oh, she's arresting us. This is serious."
Yeah. even Jim's reaction is like, "It's a Kataro ship. It's all over. We're done. No one messes with the Kataro."
Yep.
And it is 100% ridiculous that every time you talk about this most feared race in the galaxy, you have to call them the Kataro.
And everything is the same name twice for them. Like, they have multiple ships that have the same name twice. I just love it.
Is that a playoff meow meow or something? Is that what
I don't know. It could be.
It's so ridiculous.
It is so ridiculous.
Because of this, they're able to get away. They jump away. When they go to meet Hilda's friends, there's nothing but wreckage. The pirates are there. They get attacked by the pirates, and the pirates manage to brand them with a magical seal so they can track them. They jump away again, and they finally reach their destination, which is a giant asteroid holding the grappler ship they're there to steal. They get aboard the asteroid, and we meet our computer of the ship. Gene doesn't like the computer of the ship, Gilliam too. And I gotta be honest, every time this character talked in the English dub, he was perfectly nice. Everything he said was important. And I was just like, quit talking. I don't want to hear you drag on anymore. and somehow I had the same rage towards him as the other characters, but he was a fine character. Like, there's nothing wrong with him. What'd you got? Jason, your favorite character in the anime?
He was another voice of reason that nobody wanted to listen to. Though he was able to pontificate a little bit on the existence of AI, he did recognize that he was barred, which I found interesting. That was an interesting tidbit for the idea of AI personalities in this universe. They are programmed to bar themselves from asking questions about themselves, which I guess would allow you to jack up their intelligence and decision-making processes without them going full Terminator, I guess.
But Malfina, who is an android, can.
Right. But she's also...
She's a android of some kind.
She's anime girl, so she's not going to take over the universe. Actually, that would be a great twist of fate. No, I thought he was great. Definitely nice to have a voice of reason in these dangerous situations instead of, with my luck and feelings, I'll just make my way through.
Yep. I think probably my favorite part with Gilliam, I mean, and there's a multitude. He's great. From the little pod things that move around the ship and float.
I do like the pod things.
I love that the pod things were jumping on top of.
Yes, Gene. Trying to wake him up. Yep.
Gene.
To the point where, like, when Gene is landed on a planet that he doesn't know how to take off properly, and for Gilliam, for the ship, I mean, the ship is his body, it's his life, it's his brain. If anything happens to the ship, he's dead. And so having him constantly say, I don't feel safe with this crew. I don't feel safe with this. I do not feel safe with you, Gene. So he's putting Gene through these simulations for taking off. And he keeps like, okay, nope, that engine's gone. Okay, nope, 10, 20, 120, 130. And he's putting Gene through situations that he can't possibly recover from just to prove the point that you are unfit to pilot Gene in space. And so he won't let Gene take off. I absolutely loved the way that he was a convincing character that was concerned about his own survival, and yet he was still condescending about it and still enjoyable.
There is something special in his relationship with Gene because he'll be like, Gene, the door is not fully closed. Get off my back already. Why would you just say that? Like, and Gene would like ask him a question. He would answer it straight, and Gene would be like, "Oh, screw you."
Okay,
Gene, calm down.
That's got to be dubbed because Gene, he's a little bit obnoxious with Gilliam, but in the sub, it's definitely not that harsh.
In the dub, he started like they meet, and he's screaming at him like, "What is wrong with this guy? Like, lay off!"
Oh no, it's not nearly that bad. He'll make a couple comments here and there, but nothing.
Also, I love when they meet them. Hilda's like, "We're your crew." He's like, "Oh, okay. Let me just look into the." No, don't look into anything. We're your crew.
Eyes over here. Yeah, here.
And then the pirates attack, and Hilda's goes out into her ship, and she's fighting them while Gene and Jim are trying to figure out how to fly the XGP, which will become the Outlaw Star, just so everybody knows. It's the namesake of the anime. They're trying to get it started. They're trying to get it ready, like, running around flipping switches, pulling engine parts in and out. And this is all happening because the McDougalls sold the information about Hilda to the pirates. And the McDougalls show up and they kill the pirates. And then they shoot the pirates, and then they shoot this asteroid towards the sun. And they're there to make sure this ship is destroyed. And they were using the pirates that, they betrayed everybody.
No survivors.
Right. So now Hilda, the pirates, and this asteroid are all hurtling towards this star, going to burn up. And the Outlaw Star burst out with its arms. Gene gets it going, and they all start trying to fly out. Hilda and the pirates are falling behind. Hilda's ship gets destroyed, but she manages to like latch onto the harpoon that the Outlaw Star has, right? The cord, and she's crawling up, like, "Wait for me, I'm coming." They're like, "Get up here." And then the pirates are chasing after her on the same cord, and it snaps. All of the pirates and Hilda then fall into the star and die, and the Outlaw Star races away. And I can't describe perfectly or give it the time it needs of the emotional impact they do play into this, because the Outlaw Star, they're both, we can't slow down, we have to keep going or we're gonna fall in too. But also they're like, what can we do to save her? We want to save her. Let's try to save her. And everything just keeps going wrong and wrong because the pirates are a-holes.
Yeah.
No, I actually really like this scene because of how well it played into real life physics as far as orbital trajectories and escape velocities and points of no return. And it was, we go to try and save her and we all die, or we just let her die. And what was nice, I think, for not only the audience but also for the characters, is she made that decision for them.
Yep.
So I think it was a little less of a blow, but it did suck to lose her, because I actually really liked Hilda as a character.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get 2 episodes that introduce what will be the 2 other main crewmen of the Outlaw Star. First, they go back to Blue Heaven and to get the ship resupplied. They're only being allowed to have the basic supplies and a paint job out of respect for Hilda.
I did want to mention one thing. It was not a surprise that Hilda was going to die for me, because since the very first episode, the opening doesn't have Hilda in it.
She's not in the intro.
She's not in it. And I was thinking, wait, that chick looks a lot like Hilda, but she's got really long hair. Like that, is Hilda going to get long hair, or is she just like hiding it somewhere? And it's like, oh, That's because she's not around.
Yeah. She loses her other eye. Everything else.
Did she crunch a cyanide pill style bomb in her mouth? Okay.
Yep.
So this next episode, we basically, while they're sitting in Blue Heaven, they get chased around by the commander of the Katara ship, who's been abandoned by her people for being crappy at her job. They just left her on this station, and so she's pissed. She wants Hilda. She wants the treasure. And so she confronts Jean, and the whole episode really is just as they start fighting, he somehow overpowers her, and then she's like, I'm gonna go into feral mode. The moon makes me powerful. Like, we're on a space station, there's no moon. Oh. And they run away, and then she starts running, and she's like, wait, I forgot my coat. Goes back, grabs her coat.
See, I think
that was a great detail, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think the thing I love about Aisha Clan is when they give her backstory and they explain the kind of person she is. She basically comes from the hoity-toity family where she had everything and she didn't have any expectations applied to her. And so then when she finally got into school and she had to make good grades and prove herself, she didn't. And so she never learned the necessary fundamental building blocks to be a functioning person in society. And so now we have someone who was simply put in a position of authority on this ship. Obviously, she's going to fail, and she does at the first possible opportunity. She fails. And everything she does is just an extension of her inability to cope with problem solving. And I think it's great that all she really brings to the table is the tenacity, the drive, the strength, but not really much when it comes to problem solving or brain power. And she's so entertaining for it.
Or even skills.
Right, yeah.
Because as strong as she is, in this episode, her and Jean have like a face-off, and he takes a knife, and he gets her. You know, she's this powerful warrior, and he comes in and slashes her. His knife shatters because she's so overwhelmingly powerful.
Her skin is so powerful, it breaks his knife. It was actually really funny because there's another character that Jim's going to deal with later, and I didn't have the impression that he was as strong as this other character, Suzuka. But I was talking with Tanya about it in the car, and she says that the impression she got was that Jean is actually a lot more powerful than we might give him credit for, and that these demonstrations are showing that he is actually on the same level as these two characters, Suzuka and the Katara. Like, he is just that good. And
I do love that part of his strategy is definitely a Han Solo strategy.
Yeah,
run away when you need to.
He's good like Han Solo's good, where luck is a little bit of a factor into his skill set.
Well, and when you don't have the advantage anymore, instead of trying to work for the advantage, just run.
Yeah, like the ability to stab and catch the whip that she's wielding with his knife, like that kind of accuracy, and to dodge around a Katara when we see how fast she can move and everything. I'm wondering if his training in taking bounties that are cyborgs, and he's so used to dealing with superhumans with prosthetic augmentation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that.
So I'm not going to go into a bunch of details. Basically, after all fighting for the second time, and she gets so weak, they feed her. They're like, okay, let's just eat, and they eat food, and she eats double the amount of everyone. And then she's like, okay, I'm still gonna get you. He's like, okay, well, here's a caster shell. Boom. And they leave, and like, Bill's on her, and so she gets stuck having to wash dishes. And
I found real interesting that he was willing to do it in that moment, because they were warned multiple times, do not fire weapons in the space station.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
But he shoots her anyway. And then they decide to head back to their home planet to fully stock up their ship. And when they get there, the episode starts with the introduction of the character. So we're going to go with her first. Suzuka, the assassin. Thoughts on her?
I liked her. I think she was a good addition to the team, even though she really wasn't a part of the team. She was just there for her own selfish. Actually, I think that's one of the things that's endearing about this anime, is that the only real teammates are Mel, James, and Jim. Well, Jim James, same person.
Right. So Gene, Jim, Malfina.
Yeah, Melfina. Everyone else that joins them is only there either out of convenience or their own selfish reasons.
Yes.
And I think that's what I like about Suzuka is, her pride was obviously hurt, and but I think I'm not sure if she's past that later on in the anime, but at least she seems to be amicable, and using him to get around to where she wants to go, and when it serves her, she'll help out. But that's about it.
And she seems to have a particular vendetta against the K pirates or the Kai pirates. She does not like them.
Yeah, because when she hears that they're involved, she's like, I'm in. I'll help you fight them.
I just want to kill them. Yeah. She's got a lot of pride, but she's very, very good at what she does. So what it almost seems like is she's such a professional that if anybody throws her off her game at all, it's so shocking to her and so difficult for her to comprehend and deal with that it was pretty entertaining. I like Suzuka. She almost seems like I wanted to say the mom sometimes. She kind of does. But during the race that they're going to be going on, it's like 1,000-hour race, they say, approximately.
Mm.
And the whole time during that, she's just kind of relaxing. And that, like, they show you enough of the other personality and aspects of her other than just her professional side that, she's a good character. She's very entertaining.
I think my only real complaint, and actually Jeremy might have just solved it, my only real complaint with her was that her reason for following them is, you guys are so interesting. And I'm like, well, you see a lot of interesting people in this universe, and you seem to get around. How do you consider these people super interesting enough to bend your life over? And I think part of it is what Jeremy said about she's so shocked that they threw her off her game that she's more trying to figure out, like, how the hell did that happen?
Exactly.
But yeah, her excuse the whole time is like, you people are interesting. And I'm like, yeah, they are for us, but from what we're seeing in the rest of this universe, they seem kind of on the same as everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But, other than that, I liked her. I like that she was, just, I'm gonna leave. I'll see you guys when I find you.
Yeah. All right, we got to get back to the ship to get into this race. She's like, no, you do.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. And then
appointment with the beach.
her betting on them and then losing might be one of my favorite moments of the entire anime. Just like, I can't believe I believe in those losers. Yep. So, like I said, this episode begins with her introduction. That's why we discussed her. She shows up a little bit later. But to get supplies, they go to visit an old friend that Jim is not a fan of, because this character really likes Jim and Jean and everyone. Fred, the arms dealer, who is what I imagine the 90s would think a character like this would act like. So,
trick.
Guys, what do you think of Fred? And let's remember that, we just don't want to get banned by YouTube or anything.
I thought Fred was great. I loved how uncomfortable he made Jean. But even though Jean made his intentions and feelings extremely clear, Fred still had this soft spot for him, that he was willing to do terrible business dealings with him, but not enough to give him up, like, to other organizations. Yeah,
and also his, like, guys, you did great. You did so amazing. I only screwed you over in this deal a little bit. You only have to pay me back half the money,
Yep. I think probably one of my favorite parts is when he is being way too aggressive in his pursuit of Jean. And Jean, like, flips out, leaps back, and pulls a gun out on him. He's like, don't do that.
I'm just joking.
Right. It's just, oh God. The dynamic was really good. It was great comedic effect. Very entertaining. And yeah, there's a depth to that character with how he's constantly ripping him off.
Yeah. As much as I like Fred, for everything you guys have said, the best characters in this entire anime are Fred's bodyguards.
Oh God.
and how much they ship Fred and Jean.
Right? Right?
So creepy.
Don't you hurt our master. You better return his love.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are these bodyguards doing? They're sitting around like, we gotta hook up our man, dude. We're his wingman.
Either that or they're observing Jean's reaction and just picking on him, and I couldn't tell which it was.
Either way, I
Yeah,
love
either
because
way.
they're so background stoic characters, and then every once in a while they just give them a line, and it's just out of nowhere. You better return his love.
Jean's like,
What?
Yeah. You know he only lets you get away with this because he loves you.
You know why we didn't attack you when you pulled out your gun in there? Because our master loves you.
You know, we've mentioned the details of like how this thing has details. It is very much a slow burn anime, but I love that they had details like that. The fact that background characters had amazing lines that they gave them time to say that had nothing to do with the plot. Doesn't really do anything for the series, but this anime is like, you know what? We're not in a rush. Guys, the adventure doesn't begin until episode 8. Just so everyone's clear. The adventure begins on episode 8 of this anime. This is a slow burn. But yeah, so I love that.
I think it even calls it out. It's like, Jean Starwind, your adventure begins now.
Right.
So they hate what?
So Fred basically tells them, no, I'm not going to give you anything. And they leave. And then right then, Suzuka attacks and tries to assassinate Fred right when Jean happens to come back and defend Fred, saves his life. And Fred's like, all right, you get rid of the assassin for me. You be my bodyguard. We'll work out a deal, which we find out later is hardly a deal. It just means I'll let you owe me a lot of money. But so Jean and Jim are trying to figure out this assassin thing, and she has this weird rule like, I only assassinate at sundown, right before sundown. And so the whole reason she leaves is her alarm goes off and she's like, I'm out.
I found that really odd.
Yeah, she's shocked too. She's like, I didn't kill him in time with my wooden sword.
Right.
Wooden sword that cuts through mechs.
And does huge property damage.
Basically, she decides, okay, I get rid of the bodyguard. She chases Jean. He takes her out to the desert, and they have a duel. And for the first time in this anime, they introduced light shields, things that can block bullets and swords. And he's like, oh, look, I can focus my light shield into a single point that blocks your sword. And then he manages to make her sword fly away, and they're both running at it. And then he kind of like falls behind, so he grabs her sash and half undresses her, and she just kind of gives up.
Okay, I both love and hate this at the same time.
Yeah, same here.
Yep. I mean, I love it because he stumbled into the situation, right?
This is a Han Solo all the way.
Yeah. And yet, and they played with it. They went with it. They played off that to have the situation go in the direction it needed to go for the story, and it was okay. But I also hate it because it's like, if she's really an assassin, she's really just gonna kill you naked. Like, it's not gonna phase her at all. This is a little bit just unbelievable. Yeah. And that's why I started to think about it. I'm like, how do I justify this? And that's when I came up with the idea that maybe it's just, she's so prideful that it wasn't necessarily the nakedness that shocked her. It was the loss of composure. Like, how did he gain any kind of advantage over me? This is ridiculous.
I was okay with it because of the lore drop at the beginning, and they made a big deal of like, no one's ever seen her smile. No one's ever seen her be embarrassed. Like, if you even get close to seeing her smile, you're already dead. And so the fact that a man saw her half undressed is way beyond anything that's ever happened to her before.
Got to put a ring on it.
Nice.
I was kind of worried they'd go that way, that she'd be like, he's the first man to see me in that state, so now I must be with him, and that's why she's following him. And they don't seem to be doing that, so I'm glad. I don't want this to be a harem.
Yeah,
I don't want every girl member of the crew to be like, yeah, but Jean's so great.
It is a 90s anime, though.
It is. I couldn't even remember. I'm like, did they all fall in love with him?
I can't remember either, and I really want to watch the other half of this just to find out, because I don't know.
But basically, he convinces her through word trickery. You can't kill the guy you're supposed to kill until you kill me. That's on your honor. I'm leaving. Going to space.
Bye.
I love how he also tells her, like, he says, you can stop now, or he comes up with some reason why she should stop. And then she's like, I can't stop, though. I took a contract. And he's like, bang, bang, bang. He starts shooting his gun. And he says, no. Now the person who took the contract is dead. You're free from the contract. You can stop now. I never would have even considered like that kind of an approach for reasoning, to try to reason with an assassin. Like, I could have killed you. I just did, but I decided to spare you. That person's dead. Make the appropriate decision after this. It was just really weird, but I liked it.
It was really strange.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she basically is like, she shows up later. The next 2 episodes, they're getting ready to leave the planet now that they got the supplies and the huge amount of debt. They're getting ready to go out into space. Gene and Gilliam aren't getting along about how to do takeoffs. He's, Jeremy already pointed out how that was going over. So they decided to make money, and there's a weird thing that Jim's car got impounded, and so they're spending time in their home. They're getting ready to leave. All this is happening, and then there's a big pirate attack. Malfina is attacked at their home by this martial arts master pirate, and then a bunch of pirates attack Gene on the Outlaw Star. And to go over real quick, they both have their battles. Suzuka shows up and saves Malfina because she just wanted to check in on Gene, see how he's doing. So, but that was actually a really cool battle. I love every time a ninja runs on a chain that's whipping through the air. It's just a cool look.
Cool.
It doesn't make any sense, but it looks cool.
Yeah.
Gene, in Gene's battle, he actually gets hurt. He wins, but only barely because cops show up and the pirates flee at the last moment. He takes out most of them except for the main one. And then everyone goes to the Outlaw Store to see Gene. He's working on the ship, and he passes out, which I thought was from blood loss, but we find out in the next episode it's poison. He's been poisoned by that pirate. Which, it was a really smart plan by the pirate, because then he calls the ship, and he's like, I got the antidote. Let me into your ship. No big deal. Let's do this. And poor Jim is like, oh, this is clearly a trap. What do I do? And Malfina's like, oh, I'll just take Gene into the computer and heal him. Yeah,
this is the thing I didn't like.
Yeah. Also, Gene does not have male anatomy.
I know.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was weird.
Okay.
Something's wrong with this picture.
So basically, this whole thing culminates in Suzuka helping. Gene comes out. He starts using the grappler arms to beat off pirate mechs. That was a bad turn of phrase. And the cops show up to stop the launch of the ship. And Gene's like, well, I guess we're never coming home because I'm taking off. And they do. And they go into space, and they have their first grappler ship battle. And I know the whole reason we're watching this is because Jeremy loves the grappler ship battles. Yep. And it kind of sucks that I had to wait till episode 8.
Not only that, this is the only good one in the whole thing. There's like no other good grapple fights.
I didn't see one good grapple fight.
Hey, this was pretty cool.
I think it's cool.
That's nice.
I was sitting next to me going, this is so stupid.
Okay, I need to touch on this. We're running low on time, and I'm trying to get to the space race, but I need to ask Jason a question here. How is this dumber than mechs fighting?
Because it's not top speed.
What?
Okay,
elaborate.
Okay. You have 2 ships that are basically submarines in space. They are pressurized units,
right?
That have a particular whole function, right? They're flying at each other at presumably hundreds of meters per second, and then they grab each other's arms and lock. Really? What metal in the entire universe could take that kind of strain? Or the occupants inside take that kind of G-force?
So I'm pretty sure that they have dampeners for G-force inside, probably even complete cancelers. But as far as like the combat goes, the only justification I can make is the ship goes into a completely different mode where it ties into like his reactions and everything, and it closes into this close speed with the weird cameras and everything. So I'm guessing they stop. They go down into dogfighting mode. Which
I also love the cameras. The fact that they sent out like 30 cameras around the ship to help bring in sensor data for him.
So I don't think they're going at the full 100 kilometers a second speeds. I think they're going at more like 50, 100.
Yeah, I don't think they're dogfighting while melee fighting. I think they are coming. But again, I wasn't looking for a scientific answer of how this is possible or not possible in an anime where magic people ride on bodies of their minions. I wanted to know, how is this not cool? And then mechs are cool, because when I see a mech, I'm like, that is cool. It's not practical, and it's not, there are better ways to be doing this kind of warfare, but it looks really cool. and I don't see how it's that different for this. Like, it's just a cool idea. Like, I have a spaceship, but I can also punch you with a sword. And like Robotech did it, and it was great.
You're talking about the difference between land battle and space battle, and I think that's where the line for me is drawn.
Do you not like Robotech?
No, I think Robotech's great, but I mean, you're also talking about two humanoid mechs going at it, and then you've got these weird spaceships that get these weird.
There is Guardian mode where they're half and half. Just saying.
I'm just thinking to myself, like, if I'm in a ship and I see another ship trying to close in on me and it pulls out arms, I'm just going to keep shooting it and running away and shooting it. I'm not going to let it get close to me. Like, I don't know. I don't see how it's practical.
That's
like, I know they tried to explain it as far as the pirate thing, and I get it with the whole, like, we're going to capture your ship and take your goods, and we've got these arms to keep your ship from getting away. That's fine. I can buy that. But to use it in combat, especially with how thin the arms are, I can just see the first encounter, both arms just getting ripped off.
Well, and it does happen quite a bit with other ships' arms. That's true.
I can agree it's not practical. I'm 100% on board with that. I still think at least is a cool idea. And it's different than anything else I've ever seen.
It's definitely different. I just think it looks ridiculous.
Okay. They decide after. I thought the battle was really cool. He fights all three ships with guns. And I don't like that they're dropping guns, because they just paid a ton of money to get all armed. And they're just like, okay, we don't need this rifle anymore. I'm like, no, it's so expensive. We have no money. But
I think probably one of my favorite parts about the battle is how he will grab one ship, swing it around, and throw it into another ship and blow it up.
All right, so they decide to go to Haifong, which is the reason is there's a competitive pirate group that's in control of that system, so they can get away from the K pirates.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next episode is basically Jim and Jean fighting after being stuck in space. And I absolutely love series that are like traveling through space, even with space technology, it takes forever. Yeah. So they've been locked in the ship for a long time. They're butting heads. They're out of money. They're eating stale food, all that kind of stuff. And Jean's like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Jim's all worried. They fight. So eventually Jean comes up with this plan. They stop, halfway out to their destination at this other spaceport. And Jean's like, okay, in this spaceport, there is a legendary bounty. We're going to go get it. It's worth so much money. And they find the guy.
I do like this one.
Challenge him to a fight. They fight him in a church, and they have to work. Jim proves his, effectiveness to Jean, tells him how to beat him. Because the guy ends up being a cyborg with like blades spinning out of his neck and everything. Mm-hmm. And they win, and they take him to the cops, and they get paid a measly 2,000 won. Yeah, and this is such a great scene, because then they see Suzuka, who left when they got there to go do her own thing, and they're like, "Oh, you went after a bounty too? So did we? We got the legendary guy." And she was like, "Oh, good for you." And then as she's leaving, the cops are running out. She's the one who got the real legendary guy, because Jean admitted that they went after a decoy and got paid for the decoy, but he wasn't the real one. And Suzuka now is super rich. She just got paid 10,000. So then they decide to go back. This is where they also learn about the race, and Jean sees the McDougal ship from before. And I should have mentioned that killed his father.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a big factor. The reason he hates space is his dad died in space while they were on a ship together. He saw the McDougal ship is the one who blew them up, and so it all ties into his backstory.
And he like floated in space for a while, so he has trouble with that too.
Right. So he decides we're going to go there and enter that race, and I'm going to figure out what these McDougals are all about because they know about the ship we're on. They know about what happened to my dad, and blah, blah, blah. They go to that planet. They're basically told, no, you need a ton of money to enter, but you can get a sponsor. So they go to the one person they know, and it's Fred, who's also here.
Well, it was funny. He wasn't expecting Fred to be here. He was expecting to talk to like his dad or something.
And Fred's like, no, I'm here.
Yep.
Why'd you take the long way? Or something? Like, I kept wondering, like, how did Fred beat him? They're in the fastest ship in the galaxy. Whatever. And Fred agrees, but they have to pay him back all the money unless they get in the top 3.
Because I guess there's no prize at the end, and it's all for advertising.
Yeah, literally, it's just an ad race, and for them, it'll help them get jobs because they're nobodies, right?
Yeah, and for Fred, it's great advertising because they have to wear a ridiculous outfit.
Yes.
And I love how Kataro lady decides that she's also going to wear this as well.
Right. So that's a great scene. They go to like the party for the racers, and Jean hits on a waitress, and it's Aisha. She turns around and she flips out, and her manager yells at her, so she can't do anything. So she just goes and commandeers a Katara ship and makes them go into the race. And they're like, is this what the Emperor wants? And she's like, no, you listen to me. Don't call them. I'm your master now.
What's really interesting is that they actually are in the top 3 for a long time, which tells you something about Qatar technology because they're just a trade ship. They're in the top 3 of the race.
Which she did not realize.
Which I loved to see because she's like, we're going to set up an ambush. And he's like, with a machine gun?
Yeah. Yep.
The El Dorado, which is the McDougal ship, does appear, but is piloted by someone named Henry William instead of a McDougal. So Jean's a little confused, and this is where we see Suzuka bets $20,000 on them. Also, guys, Professor Khan. I don't know what that was about. There's just this weird guy who's like, that's the ship.
I imagine they're going to expound more on that in the next half. But
there's a scene where they meet him, and he's just like, "Yes, the ship." And I'm like,
and then he just let them walk away.
Jim even like you can hear Jim cock his weapon when the professor's like, "Next ship," and he's like, "Click, click." He's like, "No, never mind. Everything's fine. Everything's fine." It's such a weird scene.
It really is.
So they enter the race, and I do like that they go one at a time, so it's not like everyone rushing, and it is time based. So even if you are the last person to cross, if you did it so fast from when you launched, that was really cool. They have to go through basically a series of checkpoints. The first one is in between 2 orbiting planets, and most people are going up and then down through the thing. And Jean's like, "No, we'll just go straight." And so they go in between the 2 planets, but then there's a wave of metal coming off of a planet that also is hitting the checkpoint, and they have to outrace it, and they do, but then other ships manage to get through behind them, and I'm like, wait,
I didn't understand this.
Didn't the thing just get destroyed by the wave? I'm really confused how that didn't just ruin half the race.
Yeah. The part I didn't understand is how the wave looked like it took out the checkpoint.
Yeah. Maybe they replace it. Maybe they're like, oh, new checkpoint.
I think it's probably just a misunderstanding. I bet you the wave just exists between the 2 planets and didn't actually hurt the checkpoint, or maybe the checkpoint has some kind of shield that protects it from the wave. I don't know. It's weird.
So after they get through there, they decide to stop for food, which felt really weird in a race. And I get it's a super long race, and it's like a cross-country kind of thing. Right. Yeah. So you're supposed to stop for maintenance, and the ship's running perfectly. So like, let's just go get some food. And then Jean confronts who we will find out is Harry McDougal. So guys, the McDougal brothers are what I'm getting are the big villains of the series. At least that's what they're being built to. There might be like a bigger villain, which is probably true because someone had to hire him, right? But we don't really get to meet the older brother. We can comment on him, of course, if you want. But Harry McDougal is the villain of this arc, what did you think of our villain?
Anticlimactic. At least this for this arc, right? Because because of the slow burn of the anime, it's kind of just introduced to our villains, and I liked where they were going with them. I just, God, they had that 90s sleaze to them that just didn't sit right as far as a villain. Like, I was just like,
Now, I see some similarities with some of the characters that we've seen in other shows recently. Like, I can't believe I can't remember the name of it, but the one where all of the anime characters come into the manga artist's world.
Recreators?
Yes.
oh, yeah.
So, like in Recreators, how you've got the girl that comes from the manga and she's like a horrible murderer and everything. She's really sleazy.
Jason's favorite character.
Yeah. Kagane or something like that. There's
Monogamy? No.
Monogamy. I love that.
Oh, boy.
Megumi?
Megumi. Yeah, Megumi sounds right. And I don't know. I saw a lot of similarities in like this sort of I'm enjoying every opportunity because he's the one that actually fires the missile in the beginning that blows up the asteroid and pushes Hilda and the pirates into the sun.
Right.
And he takes great joy in it. He's like, yes, I want to kill them. This is so great. I want to fire this giant missile off and destroy everything. Which that missile was way too big for the damage it did. It didn't even blow the asteroid up. That was ridiculous. Right. But I don't know. I kind of liked it because it was like he was presenting a taste of where that kind of character would go eventually if you take him even further into the extreme. But for him specifically, he just came off as a coward that had never really been put in a situation that he couldn't be in control of.
The final episode does the lore drop about the McDougal brothers, and everything that lore drop says, I love the concept of. Like, they're not pirates, they're not outlaws, they're out to make money, and they're really, really good at it. And they don't care who they kill to do it. They don't care who they betray to do it. You're not going to outsmart them. You're not going to outpower them. If someone was smarter than them, they'd be dead already. They obviously got this stuff locked down.
Yeah.
And I love that concept. Like, these guys have figured out this universe, this black world that they operate in, and they got it down to a T. I don't see that in the character we see. and so he's not as cool as that lore drop made him sound out to be. Now, the brother could be, and I kind of got the sense that the brother was the one that's actually good at this. Because Harry just kind of seems like I want to kill him. It's so fun.
Right.
It kind of to me seems like a lot of these characters, when they get presented, like the same thing happened with Suzuka, where they're presented in the very melodramatic way as if they're incredible. But then this unknown variable enters in the form of Gene Starwind that just upsets the ecological balance. So I wonder how much he had to do with this. Like, because I don't know. I mean, Harry was kind of a jerk and everything and very childish, but he was setting up a really good ambush for Gene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. So yeah, I guess for me, if I'm reviewing them, just concept wise, they're really cool. But especially in what we got to see in the 12 episodes, that they haven't quite lived up to their name. The race continues after this confrontation he has with Harry. He basically comes up to him at the restaurant and is like, "Hey, you the McDougal? Are you a McDougal? I'm looking for McDougals." And the guy's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." "I think you do. I think you killed my dad. So watching you." And everyone's like, "Why would you say that?" He's like, "Don't worry, it's gonna show up. It's totally gonna show up." And then he completely forgets to watch for him to show up. Anyway.
That's our plucky hero.
Yep.
It was a good plan. Like, don't worry. Now he's like, I'm in his head. But then you kind of forgot to think about him. And
Got a couple missiles up the tailpipe.
Okay, now the next checkpoint is there's actually 2 checkpoints you get to choose from. One's more dangerous and faster. One's longer in the way around. And then they start talking about the ether stream is interrupting one of them. Was that the long way around?
I think I got the impression that the shorter way around had an obstacle now in the form of the ether stream. So they had to take the longer way around.
Which was the asteroid field?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't really sure. I was kind of
the-
getting stuck because at one point the McDougalls are like, "Oh, the ether stream blocked everyone else. We're totally gonna win."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they would have been on the shorter path, and then the ether stream came in behind them, blocked it off. But it's such a long stream that it still can be accessible in the later part of the series. Mm-hmm.
Aisha is preparing. This is where she's like, we're gonna get those guys. And her crew's like, we have a machine gun. This is not a war vessel. What are you talking about? I thought we were racing. And she says she comes up with a plan, but did they just kick her out?
I don't think so. I think she was just like, you know what? I'm going to
go over there and kick their butts.
Because if they had just kicked her out, I don't think she would have had the supplies that she had to impersonate someone else.
Maybe, but her entire plan hinges on them being willing to stop.
I know, which was great.
I think it's just another opportunity to see that Aisha Clan does not make good decisions.
Okay.
And that Gene is a softie.
Yeah.
At least it fits into his backstory of like, yeah, you floating in space is the worst. We're going to pick this person up.
I've done it. It's not fun.
Yeah, that actually made sense. And when he dropped that line, I was like, oh, that actually makes sense. And it's not just I'm doing the right thing because I'm a hero. It's like, oh God, it's just the worst. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets the SOS from Aisha. He picks her up and he's like, oh, I saved you. Is there anyone else we need to save? What's going on? And she takes off her helmet. She's like, I got you. And he's like, you're on my ship. All right, you got me. What do you want? And she's like, tell me everything. And he's like, I've already told you everything. I don't know anything. Well, then what am I supposed to do? And she basically just starts coming along for the ride.
Yep.
And that's how Aisha joins the crew.
Well, I think he redirects her attention onto the McDougalls. Like, the McDougalls know. They know what it is.
That's
like,
true.
Oh, we gotta get him then. You just go, because that's the answer to any problem. Just go.
Right. So they're getting ready to do a warp, and then that's when missiles come out of nowhere and hit them. And they're trying to jump before the missiles hit, and it actually all happens at the exact same time. So they then go fleeing through hyperspace, subspace, ether space,
sub-ether space,
sub-ether hyperspace. And then Gene manages to turn off all engines.
With the key. Oh my God, I forgot about this. The spaceship that starts with a key and it revs. It has a starter when you turn the key and it turns on. Oh my God.
This spaceship is the ultimate 90s male's dream ship because
absolutely.
you rev it, you can pull out arms and shoot guns with it, and there's a naked chick behind you helping you drive.
And it has a clutch, a gas, and brake. When you see that shot down
Yeah,
there.
it's got all the foot pedals.
The ship controls are just two wheel cranks that he holds on to.
Yeah.
They're not like the joysticks are for the arms, and then he holds on to wheel cranks to fly. Yeah, this thing is
so
my
weird.
dream ship. So they're off course, but they're not out of the race. But then they realize they only have half subspace power, and so it'll take them 96 days or something to get back to the race. So Gene's like, well, there's that ether stream right there, and we have these two parachutes. So they go into the ether stream and hold on to the parachutes. And I'm kind of disappointed because they presented like, this is really dangerous, and we never see any danger. We just see them go wee and fly down the ether stream.
Well, they established that the ship was built for this ether stream, and then everyone else avoids it. So I was okay with it.
Oh, I guess that's true.
Yeah, everyone thought they were crazy for going into it, and they're just like, yeah, but this is the only ship in the galaxy that was built to take these kinds of
right because
pressures.
They have to get to the treasure.
They go to the they
The
come
One
out
Piece.
of the stream.
From One Piece.
They come out of the ether stream, and the representatives from the race are like, he asks him, so what's our place? First place in the stupid idiot list.
Also, they say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, we're not paying attention to this race. How do we know?
I love how every time they end the comp, they say, have a good race. It's so ridiculous.
Now, let me clarify something. The McDougalls are ahead of them. They get through this checkpoint first. Then they come in off the ether stream. They go through the checkpoint, and they beat the McDougalls there. Did the McDougalls were about to win or like, no, screw winning. Let's go set up an ambush and hide?
They had no interest in winning once Gene confronted them.
Okay. So, well, it's okay. All right, that offers a little credibility because they're winning, and he goes, but I still feel weird, like something's wrong. So that means he trusted his gut, and he's like, okay, let's just assume that guy survived how we messed with him and get ready to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, yeah, and so the Outlaw Star makes it in and comes in third, and then another ship comes in and beats their time, and they get fourth. You know, I wanted to talk about this, that this anime does a lot of stuff where it's like, here's something super predictable coming, a race to the finish. No, actually, we're just going to have them easily cross the finish line. No stress, no mess. They already did the hard part, and they don't actually win. Yeah. And there's so many things like that in this anime where they're like the fight with the super bounty. And they have this knife battle with him, right? And he's like, oh, ching, ching, oh, I got you. Oh, you got me. And then he turns into a full cyborg and he just pulls a gun and shoots him. And he's like, that's cheating. He's like, I'm here to win. What do you want?
What do you want from me?
Yep.
This anime does this so many times. What I've been wondering, though, is that good or bad? Are the reason that climactic race finish is overly used is because it's fun to watch? And by going away from the expectation, did they actually have a less interesting race? And I do want to say, I actually found the race the best part of the 12 episodes. I was into this race. I thought it was a really cool setup. I thought the moments were cool. And I liked that they stuck to what they set up, which was this long-term, not flying through tight spaces the whole time and kind of race. But what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think it's kind of anticlimactic. I kept saying it over and over again. Whenever he would get in a fight with somebody, man, that was easy. He sure took down that cyborg quick. And a lot of the exchanges are that way, even with like Suzuka and the Katara was probably one of the longest sequences of actual combat, even though there wasn't any real. I never got the impression that he was overwhelmed. And so for me, it almost seemed like he was a little bit OP in many of these situations, which this is not an OP anime. At least I don't think it's supposed to be. No. And so that kind of makes it a bit anticlimactic for me. I didn't mind the race. I didn't see the race in the same way because they did have to. I mean, they came through with just 2 engines working. And so it was okay. I was all right with that. They had enough struggle. But it didn't seem like there was enough struggle with a lot of the actual combat scenes for me.
This felt similar to episode 1 of Star Wars, where sure, the race is an arc, but it really wasn't the point of the movie. It was a device to accomplish a goal. So this particular race for Gene was to find his dad's killers. Right. And so for it to be anticlimactic, I found endearing. Because that wasn't the point of this particular arc. Like, winning the race was not the point. It was a means to an end. And our hero doesn't win all the time, which again is a nice trope to break.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. I'm honestly kind of in the middle where I like a little column A, but I do feel a little bit of column B. One of my favorite scenes of any Indiana Jones movie is when big sword guy comes out, whips out a sword, Indiana shoots him. That's great, but if you do that with every enemy Indiana Jones comes up against, then okay, but it's actually more fun to watch Indiana like struggle and fight, like Jeremy was saying. But I do, like I said, I enjoy the fact that they set up a premise for this race and they didn't break their own world building and idea for it just to get that climactic last second race finish.
Well, what I was hoping would not happen, which I'm glad it didn't, is for Suzuka to just be like, oh, I like you guys so much, I'll just pay for our entry into the race. I'm really happy that didn't happen. And then I'm really happy that they didn't even get off on the entry fee and all the expenses. Like, they still owe. And that actually really eats up at James, which I'm really, it's nice to see one of the characters actually care about their financials. That's another thing you rarely see in anime. Actually, just storytelling in general.
Yeah. Again, another very big thing from Firefly was, if a job went bad in one episode, they're still feeling it the second episode. They're trying to come up with plans to recover from that kind of thing. So, yeah. All right. So when they get to the finish, they did win first for the private racers because a lot of companies enter in racers. So even though they got fourth, they are the first place of all the private racers. So Fred's like, okay, they'll only have to pay me back half the money. And they still had to wear the silly outfits. And I like that Aisha got in it too, who doesn't even know why she had to climb into the outfit.
Yep.
And she seemed to really be enjoying herself.
Yeah, she's kind of an airhead.
Yep.
The El Dorado, they find out, though, dropped out of the race and then has left a message for Jean, which I had already kind of alluded to. And we find out the next episode is a challenge to a duel. So this next episode is this duel, which is in a asteroid field with a lot of magnetic interference, so no radars, which they established very well. Oh, our radars aren't working 2 minutes later. And did you know our radars are not working? Also, just so you know, the radars totally not working.
Yep.
So, just so everyone knows, the radars weren't working in this fight.
Well,
And-
neither would the cameras as well. Like,
Yeah,
a lot of instruments were just not working.
Including radars.
Just in case you were wondering.
And Gene's like, oh, then their radars aren't working too. And not one person is going like, don't you think they know that? And that's part of the plan.
Yeah,
But-
immediately I was thinking this is when you have a special EM shielded ship and you have the advantage, and that would be what I would expect if I was.
So they go into this asteroid field and they start fighting the McDougal ship, which keeps managing to slip behind them. I did like, especially in the beginning, where they're basically being shot with missiles from everywhere around. This McDougal ship keeps hiding and then showing up behind them and hitting them with missiles, and they keep having to shoot the missiles out of the air. It felt very submarine battle, which I thought was really cool. This anime kind of wants its spaceships to be everything. They're submarines, they're starfighters, they're melee combat.
Melee combat, God.
Put an axe on that ship. It's a Nord ship.
I'm 100% fine with that. And I can't. And this is really confusing because they're like, we are literally in the most agile ship in the galaxy, and this guy's doing circles around us. They do eventually corner it because Aisha and Jean start arguing. She's just like, let's just start kicking some butt. And he's like, would you shut the up? And he's like, I'm going to throw you out of the ship. I'm going to throw her out of the ship. And he's like, hey, I have a favor to ask. I need to throw you out of the ship. And so they basically put her in a spacesuit and put her on one of the asteroids. And when she sees the ship, she starts, shooting a gun and making a ruckus. So they're able to.
Well, it's also a light, like a flare gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they find the ship and they go in to grapple it, and it pulls out 4 grapple arms. So it's like double the grapples.
I never rolled my eyes so hard. And also, okay, I need to make this complaint real quick. Why is this GXF-20, whatever the name of the ship is?
It's the Outlaw Star. It's the name of the anime.
It's okay. Why is it whenever the story needs it to do something, it's able to? Like, it has arms. Okay, great. And those arms can shoot guns. Oh, fantastic. And its engines can do this amazing thing in a moment's notice. And the hull can withstand ether. And now, when he needs to board, all of a sudden this big drill thing pops out. I was like, where did they store that?
That's
And
all
the Outlaw Star's like, hello, ladies.
That's what I was thinking.
So, yeah, when they're grappling, Jean ends up winning the grapple, I guess, and rams them. And then, yeah, they pierce them
rams them with their penetrator.
With their penetrator, and he
Word.
goes inside.
Goes deep inside.
He just starts kicking random crewmen's butts. There's a robot guy in there. He beats him, and he's like, "Where's the guy?" And the robot guy's like, "He's over there. I'm sorry."
Again, that was too easy.
Oh.
His accuracy and his ability is just so good that even a guy in full power armor doesn't stand a chance and just falls apart in front of him.
Grenaded him. He's a grenade.
It was like a smoke grenade, and then he shot something important.
Okay, fair enough. He confronts Harry McDougal, who's like, "Oh, you got me. Oh, no, now I have to tell you everything." But meanwhile, he's got a little wire in the back of his neck, and he's hacking the Outlaw Star.
I didn't get this.
And Gilliam is like, "Someone's hacking me. I quit." And just shuts down. And then so poor Malfina is left being hacked. And so, Jean is like, "Tell me who killed my dad. Tell me what ship I'm driving. Tell me where the treasure is." And Harry's like, "I don't know. I was 12 when your dad died. Do you think I was there? What are you talking about? I'm younger than you." But meanwhile, he's in his head is like, "Oh my God, there's a girl in that ship."
That's why I was laughing so hard. It's like this guy who's obviously a total creep. he sees Malfina naked from behind, and that's all he says is like, "Oh my God, there's a girl."
And he starts like creepy giggling in front of
in real life,
right?
So great.
Jean eventually, I guess, figures it out or gets lucky and shoots the hacking wire off of his neck and shoots him in the arm.
Mm-hmm.
Harry runs away, and we find out the reason this El Dorado ship was so good at maneuvering in the asteroid is because there's two of them, and the other brother is also there. So he grabs the guys that got hurt in the hallway, and then runs to the other ship. Meanwhile, the guy who was left on this ship has to blow up with it, while Jean goes back to the Outlaw Star. They try to chase the McDougal brothers. McDougal brothers are like, "No, you can't, because we're faster than you, because we blew up an asteroid." They're good at this. And they get away. And the Outlaw Star, Jean's just like, "I guess we can't go after them." And then Aisha's like, "Oh, you left me on the asteroid, help me." And that's the end of the episode. Now, of course, not the end of the anime, so it's not fair to judge this as an anime ending. But that is where we had to stop because of the retro thing. We don't want to spend too much time. We want to get back into the new seasons of regular anime. So this is where we will be stopping. Okay, that was a lot, guys. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of arms. We had a lot of the word grapple.
Arms.
Thoughts on this ending?
Definitely the middle of an arc. So, or at least it set up a ton of stuff that it's probably going to start resolving in the next 12 episodes. I don't know if I'm going to finish. We'll see. But it was satisfying enough, I think, to for an enticement, I guess.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to keep going. I really did. I wanted to keep going. But for me, it's all nostalgia.
Yeah. I found this a little anticlimactic. I kind of wish the Harry McDougal brother had died, and that would make the other brother be like, "Oh, I gotta get my revenge." But it is obviously not an anime ending, and we'll see where it goes from there. I don't know if I'm gonna finish either. I've seen it. I honestly don't remember how this series ends, so I'm kind of stuck in I might just read how it ends and remind myself.
I seem to recall there's a lot more grapple fighting and a lot more caster gun.
Kind of want to know what the treasure is in the Grand Line. Sorry.
Really?
You guys have heard the One Piece theme song, though. It's very catchy.
I have not.
Oh my gosh. How are you guys anime podcasters? Okay. All right, let's go to our reviews. Keeping in mind that, again, we did not watch the full series, but for these 12 episodes, Jeremy, you picked it. Start us off.
So I really, really want to give it a 5 just because of nostalgia's sake, but I can't. I got to give it a 4. It's really good. I really enjoy it, but there's a few things that I kind of think are inexcusable as far as plot holes go for me. One of them was how the poison got cured just by going in the magic computer. I don't understand that at all. He has way too easy a time dealing with a lot of his foes. I wouldn't call him a Mary Sue yet. I think there's a Marty Sue or something, but he's getting close. He's getting close where sometimes his struggles just don't seem real enough. It's not all the time, and that's why I couldn't call him that completely. But I still really enjoyed it. I love the idea. I love the premise. The world building is great. The atmosphere is great. The dynamics between the characters is great, and the art. Man, I miss art like this. After watching like the last Overlord season where everything's CG, oh man, I miss art like this. So I got to give it a 4 Bakas.
Okay, Jason, how about you?
I didn't hate my time with it. I have to give it a little bit of credit for the time period it was created. I don't think it aged too well. And I really think if the dialogue was tightened up, as far as storytelling, I think there's a really, really great story to be told. I'm gonna give it a 3. Like I said, I didn't think it was awful. Definitely gonna have to weigh whether I want to try and fit this into my schedule to finish it out. But yeah, it was decent.
Well, you did beat Uber Shaper, so your schedule is wide open.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, there's room now.
For me, I'm gonna give it 4 Bakas out of 5. Because I am both judging it based on when it came out and how I think if it was updated for modern times, how well I think it would carry over. I think this is one of the classic animes. It probably doesn't have the fame of Trigun and Cowboy Bebop, but I think it's good. I think if I went back and watched Cowboy Bebop and Trigun, I'd probably see some of the same issues pop up that I'm seeing in here. But the characters I mostly love, the world building, the art, the music, the jazz background, saxophone blaring in the dead of space. I love it. Just the one, no more Qatar. Let's just call him Qatar. It's fine.
My 14 to 16-year-old self would have given this a 5.
Oh heck yeah.
I would say my old self did give this a 5. This is definitely one of the ones I remember with rose tinted glasses. So yeah. Okay, our next anime picked by Jason, his retro, whatever he wants, Blood Plus, episodes 1 through 13. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That means we will not see the horrible, terrible, bad thing that happens in this anime, but we will get some really good story. This is an anime I've seen. Jeremy, have you seen it?
I think I'm going in blind. I don't think I know anything about it.
So this is... I took a really, really long break from when I was a kid to when I started picking up anime again, probably 5 years ago. This was the first one out of like a series of 4 that I'd watched that got me back into it. Mm-hmm. Like I'd seen a couple, like I think Lost Rider almost turned me off of anime. And then I saw Blood Plus and I was hooked through all 50 episodes. And
it's that long.
Yeah, it's like 4 seasons. Yeah. So I'm really excited to watch it with you guys.
And so I've seen Blood Plus and I've seen the movie Blood, the Last Vampire that it's based on, which is also fantastic. But all the Blood stories they're almost always the same story, just told in a new, completely different way. Blood Plus is one of the best ones, so I'm excited. So that's what we're watching next. If you have comments on anything we've talked about on Outlaw Star or about the animes that are upcoming or any of the minisodes we do, you can leave a comment on our Twitter at Baka Podcast. You can leave us an email, theanimebakaclub@gmail.com, or leave a comment wherever you found this podcast, and we will get back to you. Thank you again to everyone who does comment and support us, gives us likes, gives us subscribes. We really appreciate all that. And I think that's everything. I think we're good. Let's say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
Katara.
No, sayonara.